Welcome to the Play at 3 podcast. My name is Rick, and as always, I'm here with my amazing co-host Tisha, who is probably expecting me to give her a question that she has no idea about, but I've not done my homework and don't have anything prepared for her. So
You
I
ditched the homework,
apologize.
didn't you?
I did.
Yeah,
did.
I
My
thought
dog
so.
ate it. My dog ate
Oh,
it.
your
Can I
dog
go
ate
for that
it.
one? Can I go for that one?
I mean, I don't know.
Oh, okay. But I thought, why don't we just get things rolling
Well,
and kick off introducing our guest, because this one's going to be a good one.
this is
I'm
a good
sure of
one,
it.
and we are in season 2 of the Play at 3 podcast, which is crazy. And as divine timing would have it, our guest is none other than the Matt Miller from Matt Miller's Ditch That Textbook. I'm sure you saw my little joke in there, Matt. Welcome to the Play at 3 podcast. We're so excited to have you.
Yes, whenever you squeeze the titles of one of my books into conversation so seamlessly, I'm going to notice. So, yeah, no, I'm thrilled to be here, guys. Thanks for inviting.
We're so excited to have you. I'm going to do a little intro, Matt, and I always do this for our guests. And of course, if you know anything about Tisha Poncio, which you do, it's very sometimes chaotic. And I don't do things the way everybody else does it because I always believe there is a way, not the way. And so a lot of times I will read your bio. I will also do sometimes, Rick makes fun of me, but I do like a CEO white paper on you. And I do all of the research, but for some of our guests, I've known you for so long. And I just want to say there was one, this is how I'm going to intro you. There was one day that I was on Twitter long ago, and it was like, okay, like we're doing this ed tech stuff and I'm like learning this stuff and I'm connecting and following all these people, and I didn't know a Matt Miller. And then the next day it was like I woke up and then Matt Miller was there and we all knew Matt Miller, and Matt Miller was teaching us all about ditching the textbooks and the homework and the way that we were traditionally doing things. And I did a ton of research on you. So I'm going to do my own little like intro for Matt Miller. Matt has taught in public schools for more than 10 years. And if you didn't already know this, he's a Spanish teacher. He teaches all levels of high school Spanish. He has planned nearly 12,000 class lessons, taught more than 500,000 instructional minutes, and graded work for nearly 2,000 days of class. Now, as I was reading your bio, Matt, I was thinking to myself, wow, I should sit down and really calculate up all of these metrics for myself.
Yeah, you should.
It sounds like it just sounds mind-blowing, all of the work and time that you're putting in as a teacher. But I didn't know this. You are a Google certified innovator, and you were also named the 23-24 top influencer in EdTech by EdTech Digest. You also have so many books. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about your Ditch That Textbook blog, which I personally know is hitting thousands upon thousands of educators globally, teaching them how to use technology, creative ideas in teaching. And you have a recent book called AI Literacy in Any Class. And we're going to talk AI, but I just want to officially welcome you to the Play at 3 podcast and to say that I would be lying if I was not representing all of the teachers out there who have fangirled over Matt Miller and his Ditch That Textbook idea, strategy, all of the things that you share. And I want to know, just to start off, did you ever anticipate that you would be the influencer that you have become?
No, absolutely not. Oh, I'll tell you this. When I was in college, I wasn't an education major.
I saw that.
Right,
What
yeah.
were you?
I was a journalism major. I taught. See, now I just say I taught.
Yeah, you just did. Yeah.
But I worked in daily newspapers all through college and for a few years out of college until I realized there was enough things about it that I hated that I needed to switch gears. And I came into education. I was I was through the transition to teaching program. And so I was still getting my license when I actually started teaching in the classroom. Yep. And so for that reason, ever since the very beginning, I've kind of felt like, sort of like the outsider, like somebody who's a little bit odd, a little bit different, who doesn't belong, who isn't like, one of the normal pathways. And so I felt like I was a little bit, sort of from the island of misfit toys,
I love that you said that because Rick and I actually talk about that sentiment a lot. I think there are
Yep.
lots of teachers who are neurodivergent who have that same thought process. We don't think like everybody else. We don't take the same
Yeah.
paths that everybody else do. Now, did you know, Matt, that I also worked in newspaper? And I didn't know this about you until today. I actually read it and went, what?
No.
I worked at the Lubbock Avalanche Journal in in the 90s and the 2000s before I became a teacher. And it
What?
was just, I had graduated like in December, and I was still looking for a teaching job. There weren't any sub jobs open, and I took a job at the Lubbock Avalanche Journal doing the newspapers in education, which essentially was we were sending newspapers out to the
Yeah.
classrooms and the schools
Yeah.
for all of their classes. It was fascinating. And a lot of people don't know. I don't think we talk about those things very often, but it definitely sort of crafts who you are before you get into the classroom. You have a little bit of that experience. And I will tell you, Matt, I told this to Rick backstage. I was like, Teacher Tisha was like, wow, here's Matt Miller. And he just he woke up one day and he's teaching class and he was like, you know what, I'll just write a book. And I had no idea that you had that journalism background under your belt. And so I think for so many people, it looks easy when you're watching people. Oh, Matt has 7 books. I look at Carl Hooker and I'm like, I knew Carl before he became an author, before he was Carl Hooker.
Yeah.
And you just think it's so easy. They just wake up one day and it just happens, but it's not, right?
No.
So I want you to tell me, what is your process and how did you get to, 7 books?
Yeah, 7
How
books.
did you do that?
Yeah, if you had told me years ago before I wrote my first book that I would have 7 books and counting, I would have probably laughed at you. But really, I mean, it also being in daily journalism, I was a newspaper reporter, and so I was expected to write and publish every single day. There were some days where you didn't, but for the most part, you wrote you contributed at least one article to the newspaper, if not multiple. And so I think that from the beginning got me in this, there's a little bit of, it doesn't have to be perfect, just ship it. And then you give it to the copy editors and they'll sort of polish it and get it for you and everything. But there's also that constant thing of, I'm always going to come up with something else. It's like that Maya Angelou quote that talks about how you never run out of creativity because the more that you use, the more that you get. And so for me, that journalism, that sort of training in journalism crossed over to when I was in teaching. First of all, I was creating for my students every single day, but I was creating lesson plans. So it was still a lot of that same crossover. But then when I started doing my blog, I started writing my Ditch That Textbook blog. I got into a habit of writing every Monday and every Thursday. I would wake up before school. I'd go down and sit on the couch with my laptop, and it'd be like 5:30 in the morning, and I'm going to write something today and publish it to my blog and send it out to my email subscribers. And it's like, all of those habits, when you commit to a habit and you just keep showing up, that sort of starts to build things. So really going all the way back to, my blog started in 2012. We're in 2026. That's been more than 14 years at this point, where pretty much twice a week at least I was publishing and sending something out. All of that, that's like millions and millions and millions of words. And it's because of just kind of constantly showing up and doing it. I've gotten better. I've gotten to understand what my audience wants. I've figured out my writing style. And it's like all of that stuff comes just from doing it. It wasn't because I woke up one day and I was perfect and great and was, immensely talented or anything. It's just because I keep showing up and keep doing it. And I think there's huge, huge value in that.
I love that you say that. And Rick is smiling because we have heard that as podcast hosts, we set out to do this, and we look back, a whole season. We've done a whole season of episodes, and it's kind of like I tell him all the time, we just keep showing up. Keep showing up is actually the magic potion to anything you want to do. And there were days that I did not show up even close to being perfect. And there are days when Rick was like, we're just going to record and we're not going to edit it. And you better know what you're going to say because it's going out. So you just got to be prepared. And I think that discipline is really what I think all of our guests have shared. Anybody that we've asked about how did you get from where you were to where you are now? How do you want your students to go from where they are now to where you really see them? It's really about those consistent habits that you were just saying. And I think, getting our students into that habit, we're going to talk about that in a minute, but I did extensive Matt Miller research. And so I can't not share that with our audience. I think, Matt, you live on several acres of land in Indiana. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. 25 acres. Half is like grass pasture, half is woods. We live we have one neighbor in a 1 mile radius of our house. Like we are out in the middle of nowhere pretty much.
Did you design your life to be that way? Was that something that you knew you wanted? You wanted the quiet life, or do you secretly want the city life?
My wife and I still talk about. We actually talked about this a couple of days ago. So we moved. We built our house on this property and moved there 10 years ago because it's within 5 minutes of most of my wife's family. So we live very, very close to all of them, which has been glorious. It means that my kids get to be, super close and go to the same school as a whole bunch of their cousins. And so like the whole family thing has been fantastic. But no, I grew up in Indianapolis. And so I was a city kid before I was a country kid. And then we moved to a smaller city, and that's where I went to high school. So yeah, it was funny because when my wife and I got married, we were living in this little town, this little bitty town, with like a gas station and a grocery store and a library and not much else. And we like to joke that when we moved to that house, I moved to the country and she moved to the city. She was out in the country and I was in the city, so to speak. And so we moved there and it felt like this combination of these both things. But no, I definitely did not design it that way. And the fact that I do professional development and I travel on a regular basis means that I get to go to the city from time to time. So it gives me kind of like that fix.
Yes.
So it's a nice balance, really.
So,
Amazing.
who was Matt before the teacher, before the journalist, before ditching your textbooks? Who was Matt? What were your hobbies? Were you the class clown? What type of student were you actually?
So in high school, let's see, I was a bit of an awkward follower, I would say. I have my group of friends. I was not like the alpha in my friend group. So I was really just trying to fit in and be accepted, I think. I played sports, so I swam for 4 years. I was actually a springboard diver also. I played golf and I ran cross country for 1 year. I was on the newspaper and yearbook staffs, hence the journalism degree and everything. And that's so lots of sports. I wasn't the class clown. I wasn't the popular one. I wasn't most likely to succeed. I wasn't the jock. I was just kind of like I felt like also ran around with a good group of guys that were a good influence on me and everything. So that's who I was then, I'd say.
When you were on the yearbook staff, did you do your yearbook and create your yearbook digitally, or was it back in the day when you did all of that by hand?
Yep, all by hand. We had the papers and the layouts and had to draw it out, and then we had to submit the actual pictures and everything. Yeah, I was old school before we really switched. Now the newspaper, we put the newspaper out with like Microsoft Publisher and some of the. So we were sort of in that in between stage, but the yearbook still was all laid out with with paper and actual photographs and everything.
I was also on the yearbook staff and worked with our newspaper team, and then grew up as a teacher to be the yearbook sponsor.
Yep, me too.
Isn't that funny how it sort of just follows you along when you're in that path? Well, so Rick is so excited to have you on because Rick loves to talk about AI, and I've sort of gotten a lot of my questions out of the way. And so in order to segue the two of you into this conversation, I'm going to get both of you on a soapbox. And that is just sort of it was not planned. No, it is never planned. It's never planned. And I just want to thank you both for trusting me to be your host and guiding you through this conversation.
I still don't. After 1 year, I still don't trust you.
Thank you for publicly telling everybody that.
You're very welcome.
We love
Just want to put
honesty
it
on
out
this
there.
Play at 3 podcast. Playful honesty. So, you know, I have been around the block in education for a really long time. I was teaching, like Matt and I were saying, when it was old school, when there was just textbooks. And sometimes I was teaching without a textbook even in existence for what I was teaching. And we know education is always like 10 to 12 years behind the trends or whatever. And over the years, I have learned that society, parents, even teachers and administrators are really good at blaming certain things for certain problems. And so when I was teaching and I was an instructional technology coach, I felt like it was an uphill battle all the time because I was trying to explain the emerging technologies that were coming. And I was trying to explain how to use social media, right? Teaching all of these Gen X and Boomer parents, like, here is what reality is now. Let me give you a parenting class so that you can go home and support your students. And I was even in Trader Joe's today. And I'm checking out and I'm talking about the trending Trader Joe's bags that are now going for $5,000 all over the world. And they were saying, it's social media. Social media is to blame for that. And then I hear, well, it's technology in schools. It's the phones. The phones are the problem. Our students aren't doing this. The social media are the problems and the reasons that we aren't doing this. The technology, like, we could go back into all of those. And I've said this before, and I want to know what you both think. And I see your expressions because I know you're ready. But I've said before, it is up to us to teach our students how to utilize all of those things in a way that is helpful, in a way that they're going to learn to utilize it for good. And I just think that somebody out there, anybody, they just want something to blame. So I'm interested. I'm going to let Matt go first, and then Rick, you're going to chime in. But Matt, I want you to tell me your philosophy on, should we be blaming ed tech? Should we be blaming the phone? Should we be blaming AI? What is your stance on this?
It's so complicated. And I think anybody that tries to reduce it down to something very simple is doing us a disservice. Honestly, you've got a lot of the folks that will use the term screen time. Screen time is so big and broad and vague. And actually, a lot of the research that people are pointing towards talks about a correlation between screen time and some bad thing that is happening in the world when we aren't specifying what we mean by screen time, because there's a difference between doom scrolling on social media and doing something that actually makes you think. There's a difference between mindlessly watching YouTube and TikTok videos all day and doing something that makes a difference in this world. There's a difference between being on, a screen for 7 hours in a row and being on and off in very intentional ways. And so I think whenever we try to paint in big broad strokes, we get into trouble. But the problem is that easy solutions appeal to so many people. And it's easier, especially right now, for people to build up those straw man arguments. You know what I mean? Those straw man arguments where it's like, we're going to paint a picture of something. We're going to build up this image of something that we think to be in this world so that we can beat it to the ground. And so what we see is, I saw a video once that said we gave them the Chromebooks and we took away their brains. I've seen another one that says, I can't believe that we're giving kids Chromebooks before crayons. And I'm like, well, first of all, it has everything to do with how we're using those Chromebooks. There are mindless ways to use those Chromebooks. There are ways to pacify and babysit kids with Chromebooks, but then there are other ways where we can intentionally put it into a lesson to expand our capabilities and make the lesson go better.
Right.
Then as far as the primary grade stuff goes, all of the best primary grade teachers that I know always put crayons in the hands of kids before Chromebooks. That doesn't happen. If it does happen, then the bigger question is not how do we get that technology out of that classroom, but how do we help that teacher to improve their instructional practices? Gosh, I could go. I mean, obviously, I could
You
go on and on
you
and on.
could. You
It's
know,
all just built on this huge stack of, I don't know. It's just like this huge stack of ridiculous claims
yes.
that don't show the nuance of actually today's real classrooms.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. That's what I find. I find a lot of times the people that are saying these things really aren't, they've not been in the classroom ever before. I always say, you know, if you really want to know what it's like, you should go through that background check. You should sign up to substitute teach at
Mhm.
least one day a month
Yep.
just to see what that's like, and then talk to us about that, because you're
And
absolutely right.
observe teachers in their classes
Yes.
actually teaching, because substitute teaching is a good first step, but
Yes.
to actually watch like teachers who are masterful at their craft to go do
Yes.
it, that is a whole different thing.
100%.
Mhm.
100%. Rick, what is your stance on this?
Well, I mean, I'm in full agreement with what Matt said. My whole issue with how we approach the like eliminating things from the classroom has been repeated consistently. Like even the calculators, spell checkers, anything that comes in that the people on the outside don't like, they're like trying to abolish it every single time without
Mhm.
truly actually understanding it. And really, what it all comes down to is it's not about what we have in the classroom, it's what the teachers are being given as flexibility to be creative in the classroom, to not having to stick to consistent
Right.
curricular standards that are dictating what they can and can't do. If I'm correct, there's well, we had a podcast episode on cursive writing in the
Yeah,
UK.
you did
Cursive
talk about
writing
that.
is a requirement by
Mhm.
grade 6 in the UK. It is
So
not a
we
requirement in the US.
right, because when we've researched this for our book, but when you go all the way back on that episode, we talked about the No Child Left Behind Act. When you go
Exactly.
all the way back, I think a lot of times people are forgetting about the history of like how we got here.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm gonna just throw in like I'm gonna throw, what is it the Brits say, a spanner in the works. I'm gonna throw something
Yes.
in there for you guys just to like get you all riled up again. I really have said, and I really truly believe that critical thinking will be a sign of wealth in the future. People who have the ability to critically think, even to Matt's point, there are people saying these things, and I question their ability to critically think because they're just jumping to a conclusion. So I want to talk about critical thinking, and I want to talk about it in terms of AI. And I think Rick has a question. I think he had a question kind of formulated, Matt, around
Yes.
this to ask you your thoughts
Mhm.
on critical thinking and AI. So, Rick, take it away.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so one of the things that was recognized back in 2025 was the volume of students that were going into the workforce. They were finding that 60% of students that had started a new job were being fired because of lack of multiple skills, and critical thinking was one of them.
Mhm.
And we've also had many guests on the podcast who have businesses, and they've all said that there is a lack of critical thinking for these students coming out and starting work. And one of the things that we see is AI being like this shortcut to the answer, avoiding actually looking at how do you come to that answer? What's the learning that comes into play with it? What do you say is the strategy or potential solution, however you want to word it, to get teachers to be using AI inside and outside the classroom with students, but allow the students to still step into that critical thinking and growing that learning experience?
Yeah. Um, I think there's a couple of different routes that we go with that. One of them, you were just mentioning how a lot of times we think that it's going to replace learning, that it's going to replace thinking, and we obviously
Hmm.
have students that are doing that. You know, that
Yeah.
it's the whole like prompt and paste, right? You
Mhm.
prompt AI to get a response, you paste it into a document, and you turn it in as if it was your own. And I think a lot of times people think that AI in education means we're going to let them use Chat GPT to do all of their homework. And obviously that's not what we're talking about, because
Right.
that's cognitive offloading. That's the term that I've
Mhm.
seen thrown around the most. That's cognitive offloading, where
Yes.
you take the thinking and you put the thinking on the back of the AI model instead of on the human. And then we miss all of those desirable difficulties, all that ability to wrestle with a new idea, which we know creates learning. So then if the question is, what do we do instead? What's better? I think there's a couple of things. One of them that I found is that the ability to look at AI outputs and then critique and analyze them does wonders. It's like one of my absolute favorite uses of AI to strengthen the classroom. So, example, this is my example du jour right now. I've used this a couple times this week already. Let's say that we're in an English class and we're studying the poetry of Emily Dickinson. So students look at some of Dickinson's poems, they look at her style, they look at the way that it's done, what's the impact on, it's like we're setting that firm foundation based on vetted resources and, a highly qualified teacher. Once that's all over with, we turn to AI as yet another way to interact with the content. And we say, write me a poem in the style of Emily Dickinson about Takis and hot Cheetos. Let's pick out something that the students love. And a lot of those kids love them some Takis and some hot Cheetos. And so let's see what it creates. And so then it creates this poem and we look at it. And see, I think a lot of times the people who don't know any better will and I don't say that in like a mean derogatory way or anything, but if they just haven't seen how it can be used this way, immediately they start to think, oh, well, what if they think that Emily Dickinson actually wrote this? About Takis, like critical thinking, right? Tisha?
Again, yes, exactly.
But they're like, well, what if they don't know? And the answer is, let's make sure that it's perfectly plain and clear to them that this is AI generated. And whenever we have something that's AI generated, we need to look at it through a critical lens. And this is where the critical thinking comes into play. And it can also push you up on, I would say, like Webb's depth of knowledge, to be able to think more deeply about things. So we look at this poem and we go, does this match what we've seen with Dickinson? If she was going to write a poem about Takis, what would she do? What are your favorite parts about this? Is there anything that you would change that would be a little bit more, this would make it a little more representative? And you start to do that kind of critique, and it does a couple things. Number one, you're thinking very deeply about the content. You have to really understand how Dickinson writes to be able to do a critique of this AI poem. But then secondly, what we're also doing is we're learning a little bit about AI literacy. We're improving our AI literacy to look at something. For one, we're strengthening our critique skills. We're building that habit, that muscle, that whenever we see something as AI generated, we think, I need to check that out. I need to make sure that that's doing what it's supposed to do, and we don't just accept it as perfect. So we're starting to build that critique muscle, but then also the critical thinking that goes into it is a timeless skill that you can apply across all sorts of different things as as time goes on. We don't know where AI is going to go. We don't know how much and how fast it's going to grow, but it's going pretty fast right now. And if we try to teach them, this is how you work with ChatGPT in 2026, that's going to be obsolete in a hurry. But if we can teach them how to think and how to critique and how to analyze, those are those very real human skills. And if we do it through a little bit of an AI lens, and we don't even have to do it every day, do it once a week, do it once every couple weeks or something like that. But if we do that, if we focus on critical thinking and analyzing and reasoning and judgment and some of those other skills like perseverance and grit and tenacity and like all of those very real human skills, if we want to prepare kids for a future where we're not sure where AI is going to go, that stuff's going to help them. And then the little lessons that they learn about AI by analyzing it and critiquing it, they build their AI literacy up in that way. And I think that's a way better way to do all of this than to say, here's your AI literacy lesson. It's going to be 2 weeks. The technology teacher is going to teach it. And learning it in a silo like that, I would much rather have little bits and pieces all throughout all of my classes and all of my subjects than to try to give them a 2-week canned lesson on AI literacy.
I used to say that. October is Digital Citizenship Week. And
Oh, yeah.
that was my hot take. Like for years, I was asked by the school district to do digital citizenship stuff all that week. But
Yeah.
I was building it into every single lesson every time I was with students. It can't just be a single week. And it isn't just for particular students.
Yeah.
This AI literacy needs to be, like you said, little sprinkles of glitter. Truly, glitter is like you will find it everywhere. Like, just if any parents are listening, your child gets in the car with glitter, you're finding glitter in that car forever. You have to think of your AI literacy like that, right? Like, it needs to be glitter and it needs to stick. And it isn't just for K-12 students, it is for us too. And
Yes.
so, my question is, what is your advice to, we'll just pretend like veteran teacher Tisha, who's been teaching 30 years and is like, you know what, Matt, I just don't have the time. I just can't recreate my habits, my lessons. What is your advice to those teachers that are pushing back on this idea that we need to prepare students with this AI literacy?
Yeah. If you're saying I don't have the time to recreate all of my lessons and everything, then here's my advice. Don't recreate all of your stuff. Now, here's what I do suggest that you do. There's a couple of little steps that I think you can take. Number one, start trying some of these AI models like ChatGPT or Google Gemini or whatever. I love Ethan Mollick's 10-hour rule. If you read Ethan Mollick's book Co-Intelligence, he says he gets asked all the, he's a professor at the University of Pennsylvania, has done a lot of stuff on AI, and people ask him all the time, how do I keep up with all this AI stuff? How do I learn about it? Is there a course? Is there something that I should take? And he says, spend 10 hours doing things with it, and you will get a pretty practical education on how it works. So once you've spent your 10 hours doing whatever, like meal prep,
Yes.
asking it for suggestions on trips that you want to take, or, tell me, summarize this TV series that I want to watch so that I'm ready for it ahead of time, whatever. It doesn't matter. You start to understand how it works. And all you really need to do as a teacher is just observe. What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? How does it help you as a human? How does it sometimes replace the things that you should be doing? What are the things that you will let it do? What are the things that you won't let it do? And honestly, that right there, just as a consumer, as a user, your observations, that's sometimes your most powerful stuff. It's kind of like driving a car. Like I can teach my kids how to drive a car without understanding all of the things that are happening under the hood. My father-in-law is an auto mechanic, and he has vast more information and understanding about how a car works, and he can explain all those things and all those little things that he hears and everything. I can't, but I can drive a car, and I know that I need to put gas in it, and I know how to, maneuver safely on the interstate, and so like it's kind of like that. If you're the trusted, sensible human in the room that can give students a little bit of guidance and say, hey, here's why we do this. Here's why we don't do this. If you want to handle your business with AI, this is what you would do. I know you might want to use it this way, but here's why this is problematic. The problem with that sometimes with teachers is they'll look at that and they'll go, yeah, but kids can abuse that. But you know what? Not all kids are going to abuse that. You're going to get through to some of them. I really think that if we're going to figure all of this out, it's going to take little pieces. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. And it's going to take lots and lots of pieces, and that particular piece right there might be the thing that certain kids need. But if we all kind of commit to little by little providing them with the understanding and the context and everything, like how do you handle your business with all of it, we start to create a culture of how this is done in learning and how this is done in life. And a lot of kids are really, whether they say it out loud or not, that's really what they're looking for. But if all they're getting is just, my buddy sent me this TikTok video on how I can not do my homework and how it'll do my homework for me and stuff. If we're not balancing it out, then all of a sudden, if that's all that they're getting, then that's all that they've got. We've got so many, sorry, I'm on the.
I love it. We like it.
Good.
Keep going.
Many schools that are so terrified of taking any sort of action, and there's this void, there's this vacuum that keeps getting filled by, here are all the little nefarious ways that I can avoid doing my work. When if we can just be adults, like give some
Yes.
guidance and help students to see how it works. Yeah, we're not going to get through to all of them, but there's so much use of it happening already. We just they need something. And if we all just sit on our hands and are so afraid of making mistakes and everything, then the train has already left the station. Like, I mean, it's already happening right now.
There's a quote that says, in terms of just life in general, we think we have time. That quote, I was affected by death very early on, and I have taken that quote and kind of that is like how I wake up every day. Like, we think we have time. So if there's something you want to do, like, you need to do it because you don't have as much time as you think. And I think that same quote can apply to this scenario. We think we have time to figure it out. No, it's already happening. We
Yes.
should have figured this out before. And I am with you on this, Matt. And I know Rick agrees because we've talked about this multiple times, but we need to, like you said, come together. We need to come together and realize that it is our responsibility. It's not somebody else's responsibility. It is our responsibility, like you said, to sit with the AI and observe it so that we can have enough knowledge to be able to guide those students, whether they are our students in our classroom or our students at our own home. It is our responsibility, and we are either going to do it or we're going to miss the boat. And we
Yeah.
talked to someone on a podcast recently that we recorded. And it's so interesting because she said something to the effects of, can adults trust us enough to give us the information, to teach us how to use this? Instead of taking things away, can they learn to give us a little bit of trust and
Yeah.
know that we're going to lead ourselves in that? And she was talking about it in terms of like being in high school and then being out of high school, and how, there are students that she works with now who are still in high school, and they're asking permission to like throw away trash. And she's like, they're asking me if they should throw something away. That should be a red flag for
Yeah.
every adult that they don't know and they don't trust themselves because we aren't trusting them. And I think that is really what we have to teach them. And we can't do that unless we do it ourselves, right? We have to do it first so that we can model and guide them. And I think this, it's a soapbox for all of us. I think there are lots of people who this is going to resonate. And I think you're right. Don't redo all of your lessons. If you are not there, don't try to put yourself there. You're not, I'm never going to be like, oh, I even tell Rick, like, I want to be like Matt. I want to know all the things about AI, but I'm just not there yet. So I'm right here, and I'm going to take Claude and ChatGPT, and I use Copilot at work, and I'm taking all of these and I'm going to put in the same prompt, and I'm just going to see what happens, right? And that's where I'm at right now. And then little by little, like you said, we will gain more confidence in order to teach the students and our own kids.
Yeah, absolutely. That's and first of all, Matt doesn't understand all of it either. I've got a very steep learning curve. I've come a long way, but there's a lot that I don't get either. But I think you're exactly right that we take it little by little, and of course it's helpful. The more that you understand how the technology works, the more that you understand the outputs and what its limitations are and everything. But a lot of it is just in practice. It's like on the job training, so to speak,
I was gonna. That's actually a great point, because I was gonna ask Rick this, and you would expect that I would have already asked him this question, but I haven't.
I want to hear it.
At work,
Yeah,
I
I'm
know.
worried now.
At work, Rick, at your job, is the expectation at your job to use AI? Like, is there a cultural expectation to know how to utilize it and know how to utilize it in the right ways? Like, I'm just wondering, because I'm going to tell you my story, and then I'm interested in kind of what we think we need to do for the students later.
No, I wouldn't say that there is an expectation of knowing how to use AI, and the company that I work for they use AI for what they're in the sector, but it's not an expectation that everybody knows how to use it within their job. It's if we are needing to do something and we think that AI can assist in expanding our understanding or assist in a particular task that may take us, say, 2-3 hours to do, but AI is able to do it in 30 minutes, that allows us to get the job done in a quicker way, as long as it's meeting the requirements that we need for doing that job correctly. That's the biggest and most important thing. We can spit out documents and all sorts, and if we don't check them over and actually make sure that they're talking about the right thing, we're going to send the company in the complete wrong direction. And I've seen that happen. I've seen people create documents and just be like, "Yep, this is everything." It's like I know it was a couple of years ago, but the legal case that went and pulled up random fake cases that never existed and all those kind of things. So we still have to make sure that we are doing our due diligence on the information that's being provided. Stuff that I'm doing, which is in design. Some of the stuff that I'm asking AI to do is similar to what Canva has. Remove the background, fill in. Can you put some dummy information into these fields for me so that it looks like a design? I don't need it to be perfect, but having AI to just write those things out for me, fill in some quick little text boxes just to make it feel like a finished product, that saves me time. But overall, it's better that I'm using my own mind and
Does your company have
creativity and
an
everything
AI
to do
policy? I'm curious on this.
Yes.
You do have
Yes.
an AI policy at your company. Okay. And then
Yes.
Matt, at your school, and you can talk about, like, just because you travel and you're seeing this, do the majority of these organizations, schools, businesses, are you seeing them have AI policies, or are we still in the land of the majority don't and some of them do?
It's all over the place, really. There's lots of places, and I'm actually a little bit of a hot take here. I'm a little bit more interested in the practice and the suggestions that people are making of how you use AI instead of forming AI policy. Like, I think that there's a lot of times people want to have like all of these formal documents and everything. I'm going to actually throw it back to my friend Becky Keene, who I've heard say a number of times, and I totally agree with her. A lot of times your acceptable use policy that you already have at the school, your tech policy that you already have, already covers a lot of the stuff related to AI. So if you have to add something on or do something special in addition with AI, then that's great. But it's like, we don't just make policies for every single new technology that comes along. But I mean, there is a wide spectrum right now. There's lots of schools that are, I know of a school I was working with in the not too distant past, where, teachers and students and everything are all using their own accounts on whatever platform that they want to use, not paying any attention to, like the policies and the terms of use and the data privacy and all of that stuff, which is terrifying. You've got it on that end. You've got other places where you're like, I don't want you to touch any AI. And of course, the like squirrely side of me wants to go, oh, is that the case? Then if you're looking at Netflix, then you're not going to let it suggest anything. Oh, then if you're looking at social media, then you're not going to let the algorithm drive anything. Oh, then you're not going to let the face unlock work on your laptop then, huh? Because AI is everywhere. It's in a lot of places that people don't realize. But I think the best first steps, I think, are not necessarily, I might be wrong on this. I'm willing to be proven wrong on this, but I feel like the best first steps are not necessarily assemble a task force and create a big, long policy. I think the most important steps are, let's figure out what we do and don't want to use it for, and what we like about it and what we don't like about it. Like, let's get practical before we sit up in our ivory tower and we make a great big long scroll with a whole bunch of do's and don'ts. Like, I would much rather that.
100%. 100%. Rick, do you have any additional soapbox questions for Matt before I move into Juicebox Confessional segment?
I'm thinking getting into the Juicebox Confessionals right now,
You guys
because
could
I
go
think if
on forever. I know you could.
This would be a
agree.
3-hour episode
It
if we
would,
continue down that route. But
Okay.
let's jump in.
You're ready? Okay, so I've already given you some context, Matt, about Juicebox Confessionals. These are going to be very easy questions. We're just going to start with a very quick fire. This or that, okay? Roller skates or roller blades?
Rollerblades.
Blockbuster Friday or Saturday morning cartoons?
Depends on which part of my life. It was Saturday morning cartoons until I started playing video games, in which case it was Blockbuster Friday.
I love that. Okay, Oregon Trail or Carmen San Diego?
Oh, I love Oregon Trail, but I love Carmen Sandiego too.
Okay. Well, since we were talking Saturday morning cartoons, now I sort of want you to tell me what was your lineup for Saturday morning cartoons and what did you eat while you were watching cartoons?
Oh my goodness. Well, part of it was sometimes I would miss Saturday morning cartoons because I slept too late. But I definitely remember there being the Berenstain Bears.
Yes.
There was definitely that. There was definitely like Transformers and Thundercats.
Yes.
So those were definitely some of them, and it was usually some sort of like trashy, sugary breakfast cereal. That was my favorite. And honestly, as an adult, I am still a sucker for trashy, sugary breakfast cereal.
Yeah. I think that goes for a lot of us that grew up in that era.
Yeah.
Did you see that I was at the movies this weekend and I saw that I think it's He-Man. They're making a movie about He-Man, and the minute the preview came on, even as a girl, because I wasn't watching He-Man, I was watching like Strawberry Shortcake and all those other shows. But the minute that preview came on, I looked at Jason. I was like, He-Man, it's coming out. And he was like, how did you know that? And I was like, it's because we just know. We know that vibe. Okay. So best childhood snack that you still eat today or that you wish you had again?
Peanut butter and jelly.
Oh.
Hands down.
Okay.
I'll still turn to a peanut butter and jelly sandwich today.
Now let's dive a little bit deep in there because there are some controversial opinions about the jelly and the peanut butter. So are you like tried and true? It has to be grape or can it be any jelly?
So in my family, especially with my my own kids and my nieces and nephews, is a strong, clear division here.
Really?
Now, I love strawberry jam. I love grape jelly. I will do any and all. And so I know that there's all of that. Like my son is big on grape jelly.
Yeah.
Now that I say that, I probably have it backwards and I probably got it wrong.
Well, I love
even
raspberry.
What's that?
But I use raspberry jelly and people think I'm crazy. I know. See,
I would
people
do
are like,
that.
why are you why are you doing raspberry? Okay, well, what about the peanut butter? Does it have to be the smooth, creamy, or can it be the crunchy?
So I'm the oddball in my house. I love crunchy peanut butter, but I'm the only one who does. So we always end up with creamy, and I just take one for the team. But every once in a while, I will sneak a jar of crunchy peanut butter. It's almost like, oh gosh, I didn't realize it was crunchy. Oh, it was a mistake. Oh, well, it's already in the house. I guess somebody's got to eat it.
That's so funny because I grew up on crunchy peanut butter. And when I became an adult, I was like, I'm only buying creamy peanut butter from now on. And I don't know, I just had like something against the crunchy. Rick, did you have crunchy or creamy peanut butter?
I'm a smooth, creamy.
Okay.
Yeah,
smooth
it's got
peanut butter.
yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask a follow-up question on that?
Yeah.
Rick, is it like regularly available to get peanut butter? Because I've heard like in Europe and other places, it's not as easy to get as like, us and our indulgent ways in the United States.
I would say it's not as prevalent, but it is available at every single store. Just nip to an Aldi or a Tesco or anything like that.
In the UK, do you have the little station where you can make your own peanut butter, like grind your peanut butter for you? Do you have that? Maybe
the
I'm
confused
shopping.
look is saying a no.
I know. You answered that question. If you guys are not watching the video, no, I was about to say I go to the bougie stores where you can like do your own peanut butter, like at Whole Foods. Okay, last question, and this is just probably a story. I hope it's a story. Describe your favorite summer as a kid. What happened? What did you do? What did you learn? What was the vibe?
Oh gosh. So many different directions that I could go with this. Okay. So when I was in elementary school, I lived in Indianapolis. So I was a city kid back at that time. So in elementary school, I lived in I was on this busy sort of like this busy street in front of my house, but behind my house, there's about 3 city blocks. And those 3 city blocks were my safe zone. And I got on my bike and I rode all over those 3 city blocks. I had a couple of friends that lived in there, so I was all over the place. And then just beyond those city blocks was a city park with a library and a pool and a whole bunch of like playground equipment and everything. And that was within my zone too. So I was on the swim team that summer. and I would ride my bike down and have swim practice. I had a paper route, so I was making a little bit of money and delivering newspapers and stuff, and it was like this incredible amount of freedom and being out and around in the outdoors and everything all the way until the lights came on and you had to go back inside and everything. And yeah, that was my thing. And for my kids who, grew up out in the country here, it wasn't as easy for them to ride their bikes different places and everything. And they didn't realize like the level of freedom that you got when you had a bicycle and a section of town that you could go in.
Yes. That's such a great story. I grew up in the country. I'm the opposite. I grew up in the country and lived the life that your kids lived. Did not realize all the freedom that my friends were having. And I was out there all by myself. So it's quite the opposite. Well, Matt, do you have any questions for us? I've never asked this from a guest. You are our first guest of season 2. I'm going to start asking, do you have any questions for us before we wrap up?
Oh, I feel like I probably should ask something, let's see.
I put
Okay,
you on the
so
spot.
as a let's do this. As a big gamer in my since we're doing sort of the retro stuff and everything, as a big gamer, I owned an original NES, an original Nintendo. I owned a Sega Genesis. I owned several different variations of PlayStation. We have an Xbox in my house right now and everything. So I've grown up and have really appreciated video games. And so I would love to hear from the both of you. What was like your favorite childhood video game?
Well, my favorite childhood video game was the original Nintendo Entertainment System, and I was always playing Mario. I loved Mario, but more than Mario, Matt, I played Tetris. And I was even, yes, Tetris. I love Tetris. I still play it today. I have it on my Nintendo Switch, but I also played the Atari. And I want to say that I played the Atari with the E.T. game. And I've kind of shared this with Rick before. The E.T. game on the Atari was like one of those story games. And my brain just could not figure out the puzzle. And I got so mad as a kid because I couldn't figure out the puzzle that I just threw my E.T. game like out the window one day, never to be seen again, because I was like, I just want to solve the puzzle, because my brain works really well with like Tetris and like Mario Kart and things that are very fast. But the story games I have to kind of concentrate more on. And I still am a gamer, Matt. We had an episode the other day. I play Nintendo Switch. I play Animal Crossing, and have dipped my toe in some of that. Rick, I can't remember your favorite game, but let's hear it.
Yeah, so I've probably got a couple of them. Be the Pokemon Red and Blue on the original Game Boys.
Wow.
Talking PlayStation 2, I spent way too many hours playing Grand Theft Auto Vice City, purely for the music, because it was 80s music. The first song that played the moment I got into a car was Billie Jean by Michael Jackson, and I just fell in love with it. When you got like Toto and all that kind of stuff on that, I was just like, this, I've completed it 100%. I'm still driving around the island just for the fun of it.
Listening to the music.
Just listening to the music. Like, I can't drive. I don't have a car yet. I might as well do it on GTA. And the classic is Halo. Doing classic linking consoles in a living room, 3 or 4 TVs, playing classic Halo was like that childhood. Yeah, amazing.
What was your favorite, Matt? What was your favorite? And do you still play video games today with your kids?
Oh, yeah. We still, like, for instance, the Super Mario Galaxy movie just came out, and so we've been pulling the Wii back out and been playing some Super Mario Galaxy. We still do stuff like Wii Fit together, but for me, probably ever since high school and beyond, I've been a Madden guy. So I play.
Oh,
Now, I'm not the best, and if I have to go head to head against somebody, I will probably lose. But I adore playing Madden, and I learned everything that I've learned about football through like, strategy and formations
Oh,
and
yeah.
all of that stuff. I've learned
Yes.
about it through playing Madden over the years.
Jace plays Madden, and then I remember, what was it, Tecmo Bowl? I remember
Oh
the
yeah,
guys. Yeah,
that was my
yeah,
favorite. I
that's
love Tecmo Bowl.
yes,
Yeah. Yep.
that's awesome. Well, Matt, we just love conversing with you, having a fun time. Where can we find you next? Where can we find you? Where can your audience and our viewers find you? And how do they connect with you?
Well, all of the resources that I do all come out through my, my Ditch That Textbook stuff. And
Yeah.
the biggest thing that I do, the thing that I put the most effort into is my email newsletter, which comes out on Mondays and Thursdays. If your listeners go to ditch.link/join, so that's just
Okay.
ditch.link/join, you can join the newsletter, you can get it for free, and you get a whole bunch of freebies, like a whole bunch of free teaching ideas that come along with that. I've been trying to post a lot more on like the short form vertical video platforms like your TikTok and Instagram and, Facebook and all of those places, the reels. I'm on LinkedIn a good deal also. And if you're looking to learn a little bit more about AI literacy and how it actually fits in an everyday classroom and everyday lessons, like how can, regular classroom teachers implement it, then you might check out my new book that Tisha mentioned earlier called AI Literacy in Any Class. And it's available on Amazon and paperback or Kindle ebook and lots of other places you can get books.
So awesome. Thank you again, Matt, for sharing all that you did and all of your wisdom. We just appreciate you being with us.
This
Rick?
was so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, no, thanks, Matt. It's been absolutely wonderful. And all the links that Matt mentioned will be in the description below, so please go check them out, as well as all the links to the Played 3 socials. If you've got this far in the episode and you've enjoyed it, please give it a like, thumbs up, comment down below any of your own feedback, any of your own questions you may have, or future ideas for upcoming episodes. And until next week, we will see you then. Bye for now.